It feels to me like markets are markets, and if rents are that much cheaper than homes, then people will flood into the rental market at some point. But maybe they won't, because a lot of the millennial cohort was just looking for the lifestyle change of, house in the suburbs and yard and all of that.
Yeah, and I think part of it is there's no good options right now. You mentioned it earlier. Home affordability as of this morning is at a 38-year low, lowest since the mid 1980s. And rent's not affordable either. I mean, rent prices tend to trail home prices. They're slowing down a little bit, but you're still seeing unaffordable rents out there in the market as well. And so regardless of where you look, shelter costs are just simply expensive.
Yeah, they are expensive now, but if you kind of look a year from now, it's pretty clear that while home prices might still be even higher, rents seem like they're going to be a better deal.
Yeah, when you look at rental growth, it tends to trail home price growth out there in the market. And so what you're seeing out there in terms of rent prices is exactly what we've seen in the housing market over the last 18 months. We've seen that home price growth rate go from 20% down to effectively zero in May. You're seeing rents follow that same path. But what's interesting in June is that you've seen an inflection in the housing market and start to heat back up. And that's kind of our expectation as you look over the next few months. We're at 0% last month. We expect 2% home price growth by next month, maybe 3% by the following month. And so you're going to see that kind of reaccelerate as we move into the fall.
You think up 3% year on year?
Yeah.
Wow. Yep. So what was we talked last time, and it was interesting how you said, in 2022, we saw a big reset in some markets like San Diego, but not all markets. And so where are we now nationwide? Where are these price hikes coming from? And are they kind of coming from everywhere at this point?
It's a little bit of everywhere. It's not proportionate everywhere, but 60% of markets are up. And when you look at kind of where it's taking place, if you just look at June month on month, seasonally adjusted, the strongest gains are in the Northeast and Midwest, right? Those are markets that had been strong. They've got low inventory and relative affordability. So those are the markets that had been hot and had stayed healthy. But what's interesting about June is the western part of the U.S., right? So your San Jose's and Seattle's that had seen some of the largest price drops have turned a corner and are number 2 and number 3 in terms of price gains in June. And so you're seeing some of those West Coast markets, some of those pandemic boom markets, with the exception of Austin, starting to pick up a little steam this year as well.
Wow. And why do you think that is? As we hear these headlines, even today, Zoom calling people back to work and company after company, what's keeping those one-time pandemic hot markets still hot in the housing space?
Inventory is a simple answer, right? It's all a matter of inventory. The reason that Austin is still cool is Austin is the only market that's back at or remains at quote unquote normal levels of inventory out there in the market. Some of those West Coast and pandemic boom markets that had moved back into balance and moved to pre-pandemic supply levels have done an about face, and their inventory has fallen again this spring as sellers haven't sold. And so as that inventory has fallen, you've seen those housing markets start to heat back up.
Yeah, and it's not until the 10-year drops significantly that we should expect a change in that, right?
Yeah, and even when that 10-year drops and folks come back into the market, you're going to see demand return along with that. And I'm more confident in the demand returning than I am at the supply, right? There are some signs and signals that folks are saying, hey, we'll sell when we get to 5% interest rates. I'll believe it when I see it, right? And we've seen it take place on the demand side. We haven't seen it take place on the supply side yet. So there's still some uncertainty about when that supply comes back.
Incredible the way that rate hikes have driven inflation in the housing market and maybe now to some extent in the oil market as well. It's maybe people would say it's textbook, but it's not what I was expecting. Andy, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.